Have you ever sat down and thought, you know what? Historical facts are racist. We should probably just change them. Well, that seems to be the position that the union president Emily Dawes has taken for her university. She has decided that the mural in her educational institution, which depicts a memorial to white soldiers who lost their lives in World War I, is offensive. Even so, going so far as to say, mark my words, we're taking down the mural of white men in the Uni Senate room. Even I have to paint over it myself. Now, the mural was put up in 1916 by Sir William Rothstein, and it was created as a tribute to students who died in World War I and were unable to finish their degrees as a result of their service to the war. In the picture, you can even, in the actual mural itself, you can see a fallen soldier collecting his honorary degree. Now, we can argue the morality of World War I. We can even make the argument of imperialism in the world during that time and Britain's role in it. And that's where this happened, was the UK. But that's really not the issue here. What's important here is the representation of history. Those soldiers were white because the UK was overwhelmingly white at the time. And they were all men because only men were allowed to serve in the military. Now, you can take issue with racism, you can take issue with sexism. By all means, these are things that should be abolished. But you don't get to just simply erase history just because you don't like it. Historical facts are historical facts, even if they offend your petty little SJW feelings. Now, the rest of the school basically disagreed with her. The school administration staffs rebuked her, said that they didn't agree with her opinion, they didn't want to go along with what she was saying, etc. She seems to be the one lonely nutbag who feels that this is really an issue. Now, sorry, this is so stupid. You cannot like history, and you can acknowledge that history is racist. That should be a signal for you to change the future. You can't go back in time and make it so that something didn't happen. You can't just change images from the past just because you don't like them. You know the old saying, you can't change the past, but you can make the future. The fact that the soldiers in World War I out of the UK and mostly everywhere else, mostly, were male and white. That's a simple fact. Trying to wash that or erase that away doesn't change what happened. If someone doesn't like blackface, that doesn't mean that you just pretend blackface never happened or that it was never a thing. You acknowledge that it was a thing, that it was racist, and that this is something that needs to change. You don't just pretend that it never happened. You can't fucking learn from history if you just erase it as though it never happened. You know what's offensive? The Nazi Empire was offensive. Adolf Hitler was offensive. Should we now completely erase all references of Hitler ever just to pretend that it never happened because it is offensive? No. I'm sorry, that's not how reality works. That is not how the real world works. You don't learn from history if you pretend it never existed. You cannot just simply erase something that happened. I love the total hypocrisy here. There are basically a ton of white supremacists that try to claim that slavery either never happened or it was a good thing. Those are lies. Those are complete rewritings of history in order to avoid something that is offensive to them. And that's exactly what these SJWs are doing. They're trying to pretend that something that's offensive to them never happened. I'm sorry, but there is a very clear link between these two things. They are very much the same thing. No, I'm not calling both groups white supremacists. I'm pointing out the similarity in their positions. Positions to try to change history in order to avoid being offended. Did not the Nazis themselves try to rewrite history and write themselves into it? Like there was like the German Reich was part of some historical pattern that took place thousands of years ago, even fabricating a lot of archaeological evidence to support their ideals. Isn't that kind of the same thing that this woman, Emily Dawes, is doing right now? No, I am not calling Emily Dawes a Nazi. What I'm saying is that there's a similarity in their mentality. And that being angry at history, which is certainly right, you can be angry at injustice that took place in the past. That doesn't mean you get to erase it and pretend it never happened.
Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.